Well, the words are somehow irresistible. Ghost town.
Somehow the sound of it beckons us. The ghost town. The words promise a trip into the shadowy world of the Old West. It's not just the tourists who are finding it hard to stay away. A new generation is turning to these relics of the past in search of a future in a simpler world. There are more than 40 ghost towns in Oregon. For the next 3 nights, photographer Bill Getz and I will take you on a visit to 6 of these lonely towns. They stand in mute testimony to pioneer courage, hardship, and sometimes broken dreams. It's almost as if the weathered boards of empty buildings are too stubborn to admit they've been abandoned. And in your mind's eye, it's not too hard to see the buckboards on the streets or hear the music from the old dance hall. We know it wasn't really that romantic back in the days of the early settlers. You worked hard and got little for it. But as Jerry Myers remembers, life was simpler. His kinfolk homesteaded near Sumpter in the Blue Mountains of eastern Oregon way back in 1878. And he thinks simplicity is the magnet that attracts visitors to these parts.
They're looking for the atmosphere. You know, they read the history is a real big thing now. And people come in here and kind of feel it, touch it, see it. Because in those days, we worked hard for what we had, and we enjoyed what we had to the ultimate. We've just kind of gotten away from that, and I think people are really looking to get back to that. They'd like to get a little bit closer to things.
Originally, though, it was gold fever, timber, wool, and the railroad that brought dreamers to live in these isolated valleys and hillsides. Looking at what's left of some of these towns, this was born. You can hardly believe that at one time several thousand people lived here. Saloons, hotels, stores, and homes covered the hillside just below the old mines. The old-timers say the pioneers found what they were looking for. Times were good, at least for a while. But eventually the gold was too costly to mine. The railroads pulled up and relocated, and there was no way to ship the timber or the wool. The glitter in places like granite was beginning to fade. Now it's solitude that attracts residents. Tony Thompson runs the Granite General Store.
But you have to be hardy. You have to be willing to work hard. You pay a price for living up here. It's hard economically. It's hard physically. I mean, just keeping your house in shape, going through the winters we go through. Just all those things, you know, you work at it. You don't just come up here and kick back and, oh, well, no problem, I'll just take it easy. That doesn't happen.
When the railroad pulled out of Shaniko, the townsfolk walked away, leaving the city to the tumbleweeds and the sun and the wind. The outside world kept changing. Shaniko just waited, slowly becoming a museum of our past. Its legacy as a ghost town starting to take shape.
Filled with wool. They stacked wool in here from, I guess they come clear from the California border.
Now, blacksmith Ron Owens meets lots of people who just stop by to look, listen, and talk about how it must have been.
People say, I wish I could live back in the days that when they had this back in 1911, you know, when the shooting and all the fighting was going on, and there was a lot of that. And back when there was 13 saloons and 5 hotels in town, you know, and 2,000 or 3,000 people, and it must have been pretty exciting.
But a ghost town doesn't have to be old to capture our attention. There's the unconventional ghost town of Rajneeshpuram. 5 years ago, thousands of people lived and worked here for the glory of their guru. Now an insurance company owns the town, but it's home to only a caretaker and his family. All of these ghost towns are a little sad, lonely outposts of our past. But they're no longer just monuments to bad times and broken dreams. The new pioneers have found them and are opening them back up for all of us. And tomorrow night we will look back at some of the history of some of these Eastern Oregon ghost towns. And get your flashlights ready. We're going to take you 600 feet inside of a mine shaft and search for gold.
Thanks, Rick.
Gold mines and ghost towns. The two just seem to go together. When the word got out that the Blue Mountains in Eastern Oregon were full of gold pockets, it brought the miners. They brought their families, and the business people followed. Together they built communities, which now have become ghost towns. Tonight, photographer Bill Getz and I are taking you to a place dreamers once called Golden Sumpter. The scars of gold mining are scattered all over the Blue Mountains. This country was once filled with thousands of people. Now only a few call these rugged canyons and hillsides home. They settled near the Sumpter Valley after gold was found in the mid-1800s. Millions of dollars worth of color was panned and scraped from these rivers and mountains. Just how many millions depends on who's telling the story. A few folks still mine up in this area, but for the most part, the gold era is dead. Locals say most of today's mining is done on the bar stools. These towns that once depended on gold for their livelihood are now cashing in on curiosity. Visitors will pay to pan for history. Jerry Meyer's family was one of the earliest to call this area home.
Squeeze through.
His kin never left. There was more than gold anchoring the Meyers to these parts.
Fresh air, clean air, atmosphere, people. I don't know, I'm just a mountain man, I guess. I've been here all my life.
Sumpter was the largest town. The railroad stopped here, and so did 5,000 people in the early 1900s. When the mines petered out in about 1913, most of the miners moved on. Sumpter began to fall. The finale was played out just after midnight one hot August night that same year. Fire broke out in Sumpter's business district. The dry and empty buildings offered no resistance, and within a few hours, the fire had burned most of the city's 12-block area and even consumed the wood-planked streets. Sumpter was never rebuilt. Only the hospital and a couple of other buildings survived. And of course, the determined people still wouldn't give up. They knew there was still gold in the streams, so they built these monstrous dredges with huge iron buckets that sifted through the river rock, panning for gold. And they did okay for almost 40 years before the color faded. The rusting hulks of the old dredges remain where it ended. The dredging spoils are like tombstones covering the valley floor. Now 150 people live in Sumpter. People are coming back. A lot of them are probably drawn by the same thing that kept the Myers family here all these years, the mountains and the good air. Not bad reasons at all. By 1900, several towns had incorporated near Sumpter Valley. Bourne was built at the portholes of one of the area's largest gold mines. 1,500 dreamers crowded into this little canyon. Today you wonder where they put them all. Bourne was considered a rather rough mining town. Hotels, saloons, gambling houses, and stories that could keep the campfire going for hours. They called Bourne a hotbed, get-rich-quick gold town. But the mine couldn't supply enough gold to pay back the people who'd invested in it, and people packed up. In 1927, the Bourne post office stamped its last letter. 10 years later, a flood poured through this valley and almost wiped Bourne off the map. This little hillside, now called Granite, grew as a supply town for many of the mines tucked away in the hills above Sumpter and Bourne. A few thousand people lived here in the early days. Now Granite is home to 6. There are no phones, few crime problems, and 2 cars might qualify as traffic congestion. And that's what draws people like Tony Thompson, who runs the Granite General Store.
To me, the rewards, looking out the front door and seeing the deer and the elk, and going down the road and watching all the animals, seeing the trees, the streams, the sunsets. Not a lot of people.
An attractive picture, but even Tony will tell you it's not for everyone.
I guess we're all probably cranky, rugged individualists. I don't know what you describe it as. I mean, everybody's up here because they chose to be.
Rugged individualists, good description. Bonnie and Steve Skidgill certainly qualify.
We do it because that's what just the 2 of us can handle anyway.
The 2 burrow themselves inside this 600-foot-long hole in the mountains to mine for gold.
We just had to see what was in that hole, so we just kept digging until we got it open.
Why do you keep doing this?
Got gold fever.
A mine shaft is an eerie place to work for a living. It's cold, very dark. A haunting quiet fills the stagnant air. Bonnie and Steve find the mine comfortable. They say mining in 1990 is not that bad when you consider what the men who started chipping away at this hole had to go through.
It'll do it. Whoops. It can't happen when it's loaded. It's just, going to be pretty heavy. Did you know this much hanging wall come down?
I know, I told you that.
Well, I know, but this is all, quite a bit.
I told you the big slab fell off.
Okay, you guys can really see you can see the vein. The vein itself is looking pretty strong and showing pretty good values, so we'll keep going on it.
The Skidgills are small scale, so aside from a drill, they mine pretty much the way the pioneers did. But remember, this hole was already here when they started.
And that's what they used.
That's
Yeah.
what's the old time. That and
The hammers,
this hammer was in here.
we put
This is a
in.
double jack hammer with one guy to hold the steel and the other one to drive.
And it's pretty incredible when you think about these old timers doing this by hand.
Mining is hard work, and a lot of it to make it worthwhile. Locals say the less a miner brags about his or her gold, the better their strike. And the Skidgills say very little about how much pay is in this dirt. The people up here say life is easy nowadays. They will tell you they aren't as tough as the pioneers. We wonder. That was scary. And tomorrow night, we're going to take you to a couple of ghost towns closer to home. Shaniko looks like a backdrop for an old Western movie. In fact, it has been used for a couple of movies a couple of times. And the other ghost town is quite familiar. You've probably heard it on this station many a time. We're going to take you on a trip to Rajneeshpuram. Even if a ghost town is nothing more than a few old houses, you can usually find them. Most of them still hold a place on a map. Shaniko does. But you have to know about Rajneeshpuram to find it. Tonight, photographer Bill Getz and I will show you the way to both ghost towns. It's only been 5 years since Rajneeshpuram became a ghost town. But by looking at the marble monument beside the road, it might as well have been 50. The buildings are in better shape. They're protected on private property. In 1980, the Indian guru Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh and his followers created this place as an oasis at the foot of the Ochako Mountains. They built a city, complete with shops, motels, casinos, even their own security force. But today, there's no one guarding the gates. Rajneeshpuram is a ghost town, and it's still for sale. Della Maffett holds the only job in town. She's a caretaker. Maffett and her family are the only people who now live here. It feels strange to be here.
At first I felt that way when I came down here, and it was really eerie, very eerie. But I've been here enough now that it doesn't seem that way to me anymore.
People who feared the commune are drawn here by curiosity. Those who loved it return to consider what might have been.
Many of them cry when they come. They feel really bad because they've lost their heart and soul here and some of their worldly possessions. And they meditate. They'll sit and with their hands folded, contemplate, I guess, the past.
But this is one ghost town many others are not very anxious to see put back on a map. "20 miles north is Highway 97. 1,100 trucks a day use this route to get from Canada to Southern California and back again. On their way, they drive through the town of Shaniko. 90 years ago, Shaniko was a major transportation hub in its own right. Today, just a handful of people live here, including Mayor Gene Farrell.
We do get a lot of the old railroad people that worked in here back in the early days. Some of the cattlemen, of course, most of them are all gone now, but there's a few of them still around that come up.
A few of the original buildings are still standing, and people like Farrell are here to make sure they stay that way.
And so much history is being torn down today. It's destroyed, gone. When it's gone, it's gone. Just like some of the old-timers, talking to them, and they they wish that Dad would have wrote down stuff, you know, because when he died, all the history he had was gone. And that's the same place this is here. If it's torn down and gone, all the history's gone. You can't ever bring it back.
So for the past 5 years, Gene has been working to save what is now the Shaniko Hotel. Restoring the place has been hard work and very expensive, and it shows. Will you ever get your money out of this hotel?
No, I don't figure on it. Don't figure on it. Get it for the fun of it and the joy of doing it. Like saying, saving a piece of history. For money, you ain't gonna take a dime with you anyway. And this will be here long after I'm gone. They can spend the money, but this they can't spend.
5,000 people lived in Shaniko at the turn of the century. Sheep ranchers from Central Oregon brought their wool to the railhead in Shaniko to be shipped to markets all over the world.
I just like to get back here when all the railroad guys and the cattlemen and sheepmen and ranchers and all get in here at one time. It would be really be neat. I wouldn't want to be out in the middle of them because it might be a free-for-all, but I bet there'd be a lot of stories.
In 1911, the railroad built its new main line through Bend, bypassing Shaniko. Later that year, fire destroyed most of the buildings in town. Many simply walked away. Only 30 live here nowadays.
I came into town and I told my son at the time, I says, you know, this is the place I want to be.
Ron Owens is Shaniko's newest dreamer. He just bought the old wool shed.
See, they stored the wool in here, and all this lanolin from the wool just preserved all this wood.
By next year, he hopes to put a mall, saloon, and a museum in the building. Owens says he was born too late, but born a romantic.
I would really like to have lived here, or at least like to seen how it was. Maybe I wouldn't want to lived here, but I would like to really, I'd like to go back a lot of years and see what I missed.
It's been a lot of years since any children have studied in the old schoolhouse. Ghost towns don't attract many families. You give up a lot of convenience to find this kind of solitude, but that's no loss for some.
You get up here and you got a lot of history, walk around and kind of daydream of what it was. I don't know, just a feeling of other people around you. That's kind of silly, I know. But it is, I know, at nighttime, evening time, everything is nice and quiet.
And if you would like more information on Oregon's ghost towns, there are several good books. You can pick them up at any used bookstore. In addition, AAA and the Oregon Tourism Bureau have this information available, and I'd recommend anybody go do it because not only are the towns fascinating, like I wasn't into it, but the people you meet there are just the nicest people you could ever want to meet.
That was great.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.